Check out this PS5 Performance Boost. Why is Sony secretly canceling big games? And did Sony lie about PS Plus? How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the two-host video for PSReady. I'm sitting here with Ray Trevino. We just recorded a whole episode of Xbox Ready. We talked about how the ROG Ally is the Xbox handheld of his dreams, but I think it's the Vita 2, which you can see in last week's video.
The Vita 2? Oh, man. What's going on with the Vita 2? I mean, that's not happening, right? Like, it's not happening. We gotta, like, put it to bed, right? They were like, let's spend all of our money on PSVR 2, and no one will buy it.
We don't talk about that on this channel anymore. The QLED is dead to us. So the first thing we got to talk about, there's a lot of games coming to PS Plus this month. I think there was like initially 23, but in the 24 hours since this was announced, Sony has removed one of the games that was set to be added to the PS Plus Extra library. That game is Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town.
Not Friends of Mineral Town.
So yesterday in the video that I recorded yesterday, I don't know, I think it went up Thursday, I said that I didn't know what this game was. I was lying. I do know what this game is. My fiance Kelsey loves this game. She has it on Nintendo Switch. It's kind of like an Animal Crossing clone type deal. It looked like a fun little cute game. Sony has not commented on this, but they're removing games from PS Plus Extra, which is the issue when you have these libraries that you can download games from. These games can go as fast as they come, and you know, they can say games are coming and then take them away. And now we've just seen stuff like Spider-Man, which was on PS Plus for the longest time, being removed so they can sell the remastered version for $50.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird because usually these companies are pretty transparent on what is going to leave. They're like, here's what is coming to either PS Plus or Game Pass this month. And then they'll be like, oh, but by the way, in the middle of the month, we're losing this title, this title, this title, this title. It's no great loss for me or probably a lot of you guys watching out there that we're not going to be playing Mineral Town or Friends of whatever the hell.
Get it right.
But at the same time, it is kind of weird that they would announce it and then not say anything about it.
So kind of a bummer for fans of Mineral Town, you know, but it's just like, I don't know, after the Spider-Man thing, I am kind of bummed out. Like I think that's kind of crappy that they would just take the game out because they knew they were going to split it off finally and start selling it for $50. I think it's ridiculous that they're charging $50 for Spider-Man Remastered for how little changes there are. It's like basically a performance patch.
That's crazy.
That they're charging you full price for almost. And the bad news keeps coming because Sony tried to do this quietly, but it leaked out. They just canceled a game from Final Strike Studios that's a shooter that's been in development for over 3 years, and the studio is being forced to lay off quite a few people.
PlayStation, they need shooters, man, in their first party. Like that
I used to say they need first-person shooters, but now they just need shooters.
Just any shooter,
like anything in that genre.
Isometric, third person.
They love the bow. They love games with bows and arrows, but I think the bow in games kind of getting played out. It was getting played out back when it started with like Far Cry 3 and then Tomb Raider. It seemed like every game had a bow. Now every game has a bow and a grappling hook.
Swords, bows, magic, axe, which I like the fantasy stuff, but
yeah,
you know, when you like it,
gory. I like it in Dead Island. I like the axe and the melee in Dead Island. That was really good. I finally beat that game.
Ooh, I still gotta beat mine. Still gotta beat my copy. I'm still working my way through the side quests. I get on. This is my usual thing. Like I get caught up on the side quests, forget to do the main mission, and then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta beat the game. Then I finally do it.
The positive way I'm spinning this is that I like that Sony knows when a game isn't worth just throwing out there, right? Like looking at this Redfall situation, Redfall was in development for what, like 5 years? And it's probably
enough
a similar
for it
scenario.
to have a PlayStation 5 port version of the game that ended up being canceled. Yeah.
So like Xbox says, instead of saying, oh, this game isn't shaping up, let's take into consideration how big of a reputation hit this is going to be for the Xbox brand, and then canceling it. That's what Sony did. They were like, this isn't up to our quality standards. We could salvage it with a couple more years development, but is it worth the PR hit and the small sales boost in recouping the funds that we spent on this game? Probably not. And then they cancel it. But now it's time to talk about positive news, baby, because there was a huge Bloodborne leak. And I know we got to take these ones with like a huge grain of salt, because I feel like since I started this channel, it's like every other month. It's like, oh, this verified leaker says that Bloodborne's coming out finally on PS5 and it's going to be awesome. The reason people really want Bloodborne to at least get ported is because They threw this game out, they made some DLC, and they never patched it again. And it has terrible frame pacing. It's not a solid 30 FPS. It has frame drops into the 20s. It's a super low resolution. Like, this game has a lot of technical problems, which I know, shocking from Software, but like, it needs at least an update. And people are saying, well, maybe Sony's not updating it because they're working on either a port and or a sequel, and it seems like at least a couple of those things are in the works.
Bloodborne is a classic example of, if your game is well designed, it's fun, and people love it enough, they are willing to forgive performance issues. We were talking about Redfall earlier, and it seems like it is not, it's just not in that same category, right? Like, even if you had the performance bugs fixed and it ran smooth and everything was great, it still wouldn't be like a home run knockout game that people would really cherish and love for generations to come.
I think that was before people got experience with 60 FPS, and now the bar has been raised, and now they're like, oh, I've seen the light of smooth gameplay. And
but even with like Jedi Survivor, people are like, this runs like absolute donkey duty, but the game is awesome.
I saw a lot of critics saying that, but I did see a lot of PlayStation fans being like, this isn't good enough. Like, this needs to be patched. And I was kind of shocked by that. I was shocked around the entire gaming industry on that. I was shocked how little performance seemed to matter to critics, and how a lot of them were actually saying, oh, it doesn't have performance issues, it's running fine. There was a very high profile critic who was like, this game runs totally fine. I have the game and you don't. I'm telling you it runs fine. Then the game comes out 12 hours later and it runs like... People thought Blue Point was working on this. They kind of teased it with their Christmas card a couple years ago. They also teased Castlevania and Metal Gear, which is lining up with other rumors that we've heard recently about this Sony showcase. I would love Blue Point to be working on it just because they did the awesome Demon Souls remake, which is so good. It's one of the most underrated PS5 games, I think. There's also,
it kind of got lost in the noise of the other launch titles for PlayStation 5, but
and it's a lot more esoteric than something like Dark Souls. Like, you have a hub and you go to different levels, and it's a little bit like scaled down, but you can see how they got from Demon Souls all the way up to Elden Ring. You could see like the link between all those games. Next up here, we have all of the summer showcases lining up, except Sony is refusing to announce theirs, and I wish they would just come out and say that it's happening. But now we know all the brands that we'll see at Summer Games Fest, and honestly, there are some pretty good ones on this list.
Netflix, anybody?
Not that. But yeah, Activision's going to be there, so you can assume that you'll see some Diablo 4 news, probably maybe some Overwatch 2 updates. Blizzard has a survival game in the works that could be announced there.
Square Enix on this list as well.
They got to be just showing off Final Fantasy 16, right? Or maybe Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Those are the two things I think could show up there. Also, they have like 50 JRPGs in development at any given time, I think. So we could see some updates on whatever Octopath 3 is going to be, or Project Triangle Strategy 2, or Various Daylife 2. All these different crazy games that they've released over the past year. EA is going to be there. We could see some performance updates for Jedi Survivor, maybe some DLC. Respawn is working on a strategy game and a first-person shooter in the Star Wars universe. And I saw a rumor, I think from Jez Corden, that people who are fans of Star Wars RTS games don't have long to wait about one that's not announced. Gearbox is going to be there, maybe a new Borderlands or whatever they're doing in between. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2.
I would like a mainline Borderlands game.
Yeah, they need to like reboot it, I think.
They need to, because Borderlands 3, like story, meh. I mean, gameplay, 10 out of 10. It was like juiced up Borderlands, everything we liked about it.
You know what else I see on here? Warner Brothers. And we just talked about on Xbox Ready how Mortal Kombat 12 is set to be announced very soon with Homelander and Peacemaker. So I could see that happening at Summer Games Fest. I think I predicted that on Xbox Ready. I said that wouldn't show up.
I think you did. But like, and last year, I mean, they had the Street Fighter reveal, right?
Yep, that's from Capcom.
So I assume that, like to take the place of another fighting game, that kind of slot, Mortal Kombat could be a perfect candidate.
PlayStation is on this list. So what we would see from PlayStation, I don't think it would be anything big, because what we usually get is like PC ports. So we could see the Ghost of Tsushima PC port that's been rumored for a long time. We could see...
What about that movie? What's going on with that movie?
Yeah, from the director of John Wick 1 through
4.
4. It's happening. It's his next movie. I'm really excited about that. We could see some footage from that. Ghost of Tsushima 2 could get announced at a PlayStation showcase and get more gameplay. A Last of Us Part 2 direct director's cut and or PC port would be great. More info on the survival game that's happening with The Last of Us. There's like smaller Sony stuff I could definitely see showing up there. Death Stranding 2, I would also expect to get an update at Games Fest because Jeff Keighley and Hideo Kojima have like the longest standing bromance of all time. Jeff like produced his podcast, which was really good if you never listened to it. Of course, also PlayStation could announce some of the Konami stuff or give us more gameplay on it, like Castlevania, Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill 2 could get an update. There's so much stuff Jeff could announce, but gotta say, we've watched a lot of these Summer Game Fest showcases. We've watched a lot of the Game Awards showcases and things like that. There's usually some bangers, but there's also a lot of disappointing stuff, I will say.
I will say, like, PlayStation is a little bit more prominent in Jeff Keighley's shows, at least in the past couple of years. So, and we're going to be there live watching this go down. So either we're going to be massively disappointed in person or we're going to be pretty pumped. Probably going to be a little bit in the middle. Like Jimmy was just saying.
Yeah.
How long is this show supposed to be? I guess like that will inform.
Like 3 hours.
Yeah, that will inform better on like what the people have the time to actually show and like who has like the allotted amount. Or like, how long does PlayStation have to show? And like, is everyone getting a separate kind of block? Like I see Ubisoft on here. Maybe we'll finally get an update on Skull and Bones whenever the hell that's coming out.
As for hardware, this could also be where Sony announces the PS5 Slim. That might be something they don't want to do during the PlayStation showcase because it's just like a small update to the console. They could just save that for the Games Fest, which would be cool because Jeff Keighley announced the Xbox Series X at one of his shows. So seeing an updated PlayStation announced, that'd be pretty interesting. Or at the very least, some new DualSenses, some custom plates, some other new hardware.
Some to keep us going until like through the summer months, man.
But yeah, we're looking forward to all that stuff. Just a cool update from Jeff Keighley. And then finally, if you're a Witcher 3 player on the PlayStation 5, the performance mode in this game got some tweaks that make it look and run a lot better. The main one being the inventory screen. It's going to be less glitchy. It's going to have a lot less problems. And overall, your frame rate is going to be smoothed out across the board. I like how a lot of these games that have been out for a little bit are retroactively getting fixed on the PS5. Like the last one I just talked about, I don't think it was with you, was Shadow of the Colossus. It just got a performance patch that fixed a major issue with the game. So Sony going back in and helping these developers fix their games that aren't running as well on the PS5. I really like to see that.
It is cool, and I've played through the next gen version of The Witcher 3 a couple times already on the Xbox side. I'm gonna be honest, it's starting to show its age a little bit. Like some of the mechanics and some of like
Geralt moves is
the
weird.
other, and especially when I first played The Witcher, I had never played any Dark Souls games. Right. And then my first one was Elden Ring. And that kind of, I'm starting to realize that was a turning point in like what I expect out of combat when it comes to fantasy combat, spells, swords, parrying, dodging. And going back to The Witcher, I'm like, okay, this is starting to show its age a little bit. And even in like the beginning moments of that game, when you're in White Orchard, and the fact that, every time you talk to an NPC or another character, it goes into the same standard mode of like they're on the right side of the screen, you're on the left side of the screen. And when you exit out of that dialogue option, it has to load. I'd say it sticks out the most to me in that one mission where the guy's like, oh, like I was attacked and I was like trying to, bring my medicine to my friends and I was attacked by these guys and can you go get it for me? And it turns out that he ambushed the cart and then you figure it out like he lied to you. But you figure out that he lies to you, he takes off running, and then it has to load, and you're running, and then you hit him, and then it loads again, and then the dialogue comes. I'm like,
I remember that. I remember what you're talking about.
I'm like, it's starting to show its age a little bit. As much as I have loved that franchise and have great memories of it, I'm like, and besides like the performance stuff going on with it, it's starting to show its age. And it was tough when they had to delay this next gen patch for Witcher 3 because they were working so furiously to get Cyberpunk up to snuff. But
they delayed it because they took it away from the developer who was working on it. It was Saber Interactive, who's usually pretty good. They're the ones who took over the KOTOR remake for Sony, but they took it away because I guess it wasn't shaping up for them.
They're like, let's do this in-house instead.
Which they should have been doing from the beginning.
And especially, I haven't played this new update yet, but from what I'm seeing,
Pretty good.
pretty good. Pretty good.
Check it
Might
out.
want to jump back in.
Let me know in the comments.